So I'm going to open the meeting at 6:01 p.m. of the Cotuit School Subcommittee of the Prudential Committee. I'm going to take a roll call. Jim Danhauser.
Here.
Tom Hoppenstadt.
Here.
DJ McKinnon.
Here.
Adam Zace.
Here.
Mark Lynch.
Here.
Jackie Barton.
Here.
And Fran Parks, I'm here. Okay, before we start, I'd just like to
There's
ask,
Ron.
I'd just like to ask that if somebody has a question or wish to speak, that they just raise their hand and not speak out so we can keep it a little bit more organized.
And don't try to use the Zoom virtual hand because not all of us can see it. I'm going to try to keep track of the hands raised in the order they're in. I can't see those digital hands, so raise your actual hand.
So did everybody get a chance to read the minutes?
I did.
Yes.
Any corrections, additions, subtractions?
No, on my end.
No.
All right.
The only thing that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my
Hi,
hand.
Ray. Yeah.
The minute said that I asked about options, and I was asking if the town could sell the property before the demolition date. And Councilwoman said absolutely. I think it's a minor change, but a little different than the way it was presented.
Okay, I'll correct that. So I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Unfortunately, we have to have another roll call. Jim Danhauser,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Ron. Ron, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone.
Aye.
Aye.
You. DJ,
Aye.
Mark Lynch,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
Jackie.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So, the first issue is, I thought we should discuss other possible uses of the building besides the fire station, or see if people think that that's a reasonable option to look at other uses for that building. I think that right now what the two most obvious issues that we've discussed is one, a fire station and municipal offices, two, tear it down. Yes, Jim?
As I've been thinking about this, I think we're well served to think about it as two, and I think Ron and Jackie have made this point before, two really separate decisions to be made. And there's a risk, I think, in wrapping them together. The first decision is, does the fire district want to try to enter into a discussion with the town by virtue of which the fire district would end up taking ownership of some or all of that property? The second separate issue is, and if it never did anything else with it, but just either demolished the building, Jackie's made this point, or left the building stand and use it for something without having to specify today what it is, that's one decision tree that I think ultimately the Prudential Committee needs to come to grips with. It's an entirely separate decision as to if, in fact, the fire district takes control of that property, what, if anything, does it want to do with it? And my concern is if we mush the two together, it gets to be a much more complicated thing to come to grips with and potentially to explain effectively on a public basis. Because for my part, at least, I would be prepared to say that I would certainly be in favor of the fire district getting control of the property. And if the worst case is that ultimately then that building needs to be demolished and nothing else is built, then that's fine. That's a fine outcome. And then split out a separate consideration, which can take more time, about what exactly, if anything, is to be done with the building. And I say that because I do think that there is some desire to move with some degree of speed so that nothing else happens to the property. And keeping in mind the fact that it is a very significant piece of property. It does border a well field that's very important. And it's in the fire district's best interest, from my point of view, that it gets control of the property regardless of ultimately what it does with it.
Yes, DJ?
I absolutely agree with Jim, but I almost think that to some degree, part of the decision up front is to just make the decision to kind of move into negotiations with the town, because until the negotiations are done and a form of contract is in place, we're not really sure of the terms. I mean, we have a hope to, get a set of terms that, gives us the ability to have some period of time to do a study and an option. But to some degree, it's, the first step is enter into negotiations, come up with some form of contract. Until that's signed, there's no commitment on either party. But that would also be the time, hopefully that's crafted in a way so that there's whatever time is necessary to evaluate it. But then I absolutely agree with Jim that, that could be the point in time. Hopefully we could say, we'll spend some money, go forward with these studies. And if it's, determined that at least the first step is to just get control of it, and then it's a separate future decision. So it's almost like there's three decisions, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, Adam?
I was going to, thanks, DJ. I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I agree with the concept. I don't think it's not in our best interest to wait for the town to potentially demolish the building and then figure out if we can get the property. That's just far too much risk, in my view, from the perspective, especially if we start from the perspective is that our chief mission or the first element of the mission is about water. So well said, both of you. Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Tom?
You're on mute, Tom.
Sorry. I would concur with what the other speakers have said. And we discussed it last night at our Water Commission meeting again, and we're unanimous in our approach to the fact that we feel strongly that all of the property be transferred to the district for the protection of water. And then if other uses can be made down the road, all the better.
Ron?
Agree with everyone. That's all I have. Let's move forward.
Yeah. Jackie?
Yeah, obviously I'm in total agreement. I think that at our last meeting, we talked about the idea of going and getting an option. And I think that option or fulfillment of that option could be contingent on a district vote. So it would be a non-binding agreement until the district votes in whatever way, shape or form to acquire the property. So that kind of feeds into what DJ is saying, is that let's talk to the town. Let's get as much information as we can from the town to know where the town sits so that we can approach the district voters as soon as possible, maybe at the May meeting, and move forward from there, because, information and knowledge, will feed our ultimate decision as a community. And, when you started the conversation about what other uses could be put to it, I think that's a huge rabbit hole that we would start going down. And we know that the town had a hard time leasing out the structure. I don't think that we would have any greater success in doing that. And I think the voters would probably object to us, kind of spending time, energy, and potentially resources on on the effort to try to find somebody to take over the building.
I agree. I agree with all of you. I think the decision is either take the building or don't take the building. And I think what everybody in the village wants is for us to get control of the building. And then, after that, make a decision about the use of the building. And I think probably I would lean towards having a special district meeting. I think I need to, I'm not sure if this committee has the ability to discuss any options or anything like that with the town manager. So we might need to, discuss that with Mr. Boudreau, before we go ahead with that. And obviously the next problem is to come up with a place where we could hold a special district meeting. Because it's not going to
We
be
have a school.
Maybe we could use it in the school.
Just kidding, just kidding.
No,
No,
well, no, yeah. The only thing is that the bathroom facilities there are sadly lacking, but other than
Yes,
that,
they are.
Pina has plenty of porta potties.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we could have it at the schools, and just, ask the town to allow us to do that, and then bring our own, or have our own, microphones and equipment. So, but I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do, is to start out first by, getting, people are going to ask what we're going to want to do with it. But, I don't want to see 5 apartment buildings built there. And I'm sure nobody else does also. So, yes, Ron?
In terms of process, aren't we a ways away from a meeting with the district?
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't understand what you're suggesting relative to how we move forward with the town, so we have something tangible, something that we can bring to the district, which would really be an agreement to pursue negotiations together. And how do we get to that point? What's the next step would be my question to the group.
Adam?
I think, Ron, what Fran is suggesting is that it's fine for us to talk about as a committee what we might want to do, and I think having this moment of agreement is that if we were to go and successfully negotiate an option or some kind of deal with the town, that's going to potentially mean something that every villager needs to have input in. And I think that's what Fran is saying, is that we might need to have that meeting to give us a chance to make this everyone aware of this if they aren't already, but also to provide sort of the stamp of approval, if you will, for the deal. Because if we go and create a deal with them, we don't have the citizens' approval.
Okay, so what we're looking to do is have a meeting to ask the citizens, should we pursue this, to bring it back to them?
Well, yeah, they need to know the potential implications to everybody here. That if we were, as you know, as Fran said, the potential here, or other people, we might have to knock it down to protect our water. Well, that's going to be a bill to us. So everyone should be aware of that, I think.
I'm sorry.
Jim? Oh,
If we're going to do that, there is going to be the need to do some investigation first. Yeah. Because to talk about demolition, we need to have a good number for what that would cost. What we have now is an estimate from the town. Yeah. We don't have a good number, and we would need that. Similarly, I would think that we would need to have a reasonable estimate for what the ongoing cost of owning the property would be in terms of whatever the maintenance cost would be if the building stands, and what it would be just in terms of maintaining whatever other property we take as part of the transaction. So I do think that there's going to have to be some investigation done first. That is going to require an expenditure of some amount of money, which the Prudential Committee is going to have to authorize. Because I don't think it's productive for us to go to the village to talk conceptually about something without being able to say, and here's what the financial implications could be. Because otherwise you're just talking, cocktail party conversation.
Well, unfortunately, go ahead, Mark.
I agree with everything that's been said so far, particularly with Jim's comment that we would need, if we're going to present options to the village, we would need to know possible implications, the oil tank, the asbestos, the carrying costs, the demolition costs. Just to be clear, are we talking about trying to negotiate an option with the town and then setting up a meeting in May, at which time we would say, we have this option, here are the implications if we purchase it? Just trying to figure out which, do we do the option negotiations first and then present, or does nothing happen until we have a meeting in May? Not nothing, but.
We can't spend any money. There's no place to get any money to do, to hire anybody to do any, tell us how much it would cost to demolish it. That has to be approved by a district meeting. Tom?
What I heard David Anthony say, though, was that even though we might not be in a position at this point prior to a May meeting of acquiring the land, we should certainly support the district in whatever way we can of acquiring or being interested in acquiring, seriously interested in acquiring that land for the purposes of watershed protection and other things. And so because of that, the Board of Water Commissioners in 2 separate meetings voted unanimously to send a letter, and that letter is sitting on my desk right here and will be sent to them after Monday, just stating that intent, that we fully support the acquisition of that property. We fully anticipate that we will be moving forward with a subcommittee that's working on the details as to whether that would work out. And pending district approval, we would like the town to transfer that property to the village of Cotuit, to the district.
Adam?
I think we have some time here, I guess, because just based on what Mr. Anthony had to share with us.
Right, and I think what Fran's point was very illustrative or illuminating, that it doesn't mean that the subcommittee of Jim, DJ, and Mark can continue to do due diligence, if you will, and to continue to communicate with the town as a municipal body representing the district as a municipal body. It just means that we can't, you guys can't commit us with money until such a meeting.
Jim?
Yeah, then what you're talking about is trying to get from the town basically an option, subject to district approval.
Yeah.
And it might be 2 meetings, or maybe it's 1 in which we say, here's the range of what we think would be entailed in the costs, get approval to do the investigation of those, and if they come in at those kinds of numbers, then the option would have been approved. So I don't think you want to get into the position of having 2 district meetings, was my point.
Yeah, no.
So that's the way I think you have to thread that particular needle. But I don't think that's undoable. I don't believe that the town, at least and we should probably talk about some of that in executive session, because there are some things that would affect negotiations, and I have great respect for the town and its general principles, but I never like to start negotiating with somebody if they already know what my bottom line is.
Right.
And since this is a public forum, the town could have the opportunity to review it. So I think, when we start talking about how we want to negotiate with the town and what we want to seek from them, we should probably do that in an executive session.
I agree. Tom, I'm a little uncomfortable with the water department separately contacting the town and sending your position on this. I mean, we know your position, and the Prudential Committee knows it. So I'm not sure that anybody else chime in as to what you think about the water department sending a letter separately to the town. But Mark.
I think I agree with you, Fran. I think we would want to present a completely united front. Tom's made it very clear that the water district is interested in this multiple times. I guess to some extent, and I'm no expert on this, it depends on which is the correct entity to be making these approaches to the town and is authorized to make such a purchase should one occur.
Tom?
Thank you for that, Fran and Mark. We have already made public comment to the town. We've already submitted 2 separate formal testimonies to the town and gone to public meetings and testified to the town that we were interested in making sure that property was protected in perpetuity. And now we have had 2 district meetings, 2 public meetings, where we voted unanimously to send a letter. So we're kind of already down that road. And I don't think we'll put any roadblocks or hurdles in the way. We're just saying that we fully support the district's intentions to obtain all the forests, fields, and other property for the people of the village of Cotuit. And that's based on protection of our wellhead and our drinking water.
Except we don't know that it's the village intention to do that at the moment.
So I could change the word intentions to something else.
Interest, but we don't know it's the village intentions at the moment to do that. So I just,
Okay, so I can massage that, no problem.
But I think if you've already sent 2 letters,
I've
I'm
already
not
sent
sure.
two and given formal testimony, so that's what I'm saying, is that we've had public meetings and already have done this. So to say we're not gonna do it now is something that we don't have the ability to do, because we've already committed to that in public meetings.
But I'm not sure what the point of sending a 3rd letter is.
It was in support of this effort and to help move this effort along as well.
Okay. So any other discussion? Adam?
I take your point, Fran, although as I was thinking about it, I'm wondering, you can't unring the bell, A, and B, I was thinking that I don't know if there's any, it's hard to imagine what harm it could really do. Those were my thoughts as I was listening to Tom.
Thanks. Anyone else? Jackie?
Yeah, as we were talking about it, and following up on what Jim just said about going into executive session, it feels to me like we should ask Mark Boudreau to attend another meeting that's purely an executive session to discuss how best to move forward. I know that working for the Barnstable Land Trust, I had no authority to obligate the board of directors or to obligate the organization. So we simply I moved forward with landowners, figured out all the details, and then went to the board, which in this case would be the voters, with the options. And so it feels to me like somebody within the district, i.e. the Prudential Committee or somebody, should have the authority to be able to enter into non-binding agreements. My guess is it's you.
Yes,
And the only way we're going to find out is to ask Mark for certain.
yes, correct.
Because that's what we need to do in order to go to the vote, in order to go to the voters ultimately. So I guess that's my suggestion, is that if we can get Mark on a Zoom call that is just us and nobody else, that would move things along, I think.
Mark Lynch, DJ McKinnon, and I, following up on this committee's request, did have a conversation with Mark Boudreau. And once we go into executive session, I'll read the notes from that conversation, and I think that will help you. But I agree with your suggestion, Jackie. That would be the next step.
I think if nobody has any further comments, Jim, can you read the motion to go into executive session?
I could if I could find it. Yeah, except I'm not going to be able to find it.
Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you.
I make a motion to go into executive session for purpose 5, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public committee, and the committee will not return to public session. Is there a second?
Second.
And this is a
Sorry, Jim.
roll call vote. Jim Denheiser,
Aye.
Tom? You're muted, Tom.
Yes.
Yes. Ron?
Aye.
DJ?
Aye.
Ray? Ray, you muted. Ray, you're muted.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Adam?
Yes. Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jackie?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So thank you. We're now in executive session.